Welcome everybody to the morning session on Wednesday. Very impressed that we have this many actually. 2 days of walking around Las Vegas and eating and drinking and gambling, and yet you're here at 10:20 in the morning. I love it. So we're going to learn today recent advances in connected and smart warehouses. It's one of my favorite subjects. I've been studying warehouse for 25 years. And we have a great panel for you to talk about it. So my name's Will Haraway. I'm the co-founder and Chief Content Officer at Lead Coverage in Atlanta, Georgia, for you Georgians out there, Southerners. To my right, Oana Jinga, the CC&PO and Co-Founder of Dexory. Dexory, I got that right? Great. And then Sharon Klava, President of C-Store Master. A.K. Schultz, CEO and Co-Founder of SVT Robotics. And Herbert ten Haba, did I get it? Pretty close? Great. CEO of Scantainer. And we are not brothers, though, we're very similar. I would say that I'm the tall version and he's the venti version of this look that we're doing here for you today. So it's great to see Herbert. So we're going to start off with a few stats. This is a perfect time to really have this session. So I'm going to throw a few stats at you. This one's from Gartner. 96% of survey respondents to the 2022 Gartner Supply Chain Technology User Wants and Needs either have already deployed or plan to deploy cyber physical automation by 2024, by the year end 2024. That's 96%. There will be more than 2 million intralogistics smart robots by end of year 2024, this year. And this is one of my favorites. By 2028, there will be more smart robots than frontline workers in manufacturing, retail, and logistics due to labor shortages, just so we have the driver. By 2026, also, over 50% of companies deploying robots will have a multi-agent orchestration platform. We're going to talk about that a little bit with AK later. And by 2027, 50% of companies with warehouse operations will leverage AI-enabled vision systems to replace traditional cycle counting processes. We could not get through a session without saying AI, so I wanted to get it right out front, okay? But just a couple of investment things for you PE guys out there. As you know, probably Amazon is expanding its $1 billion Industrial Innovation Fund in 2024, and private equity invested $50.6 billion in automated logistics in 2021, up 34% from the previous year. So the space is exploding. This is a really good time to have this conversation. So we're going to start this question with Oana, and I wanted to ask you, from your perspective, how do you select the right robots and automation to set up your business for flexibility and scalability in the future?
Cool. Thank you so much for the introduction, and also hello everyone. Morning. Great question. I think what we're seeing is, first of all, obviously, to select any kind of technology solution, you have to have a problem. So the point is to actually understand your business very well and then find the gaps where something is not working right. So where we stand, obviously, at Dexory is we kind of focus more on providing data for companies to be able to do that. So being able to really understand how operations work day to day, where things are not probably progressing the way they should do, and then kind of thinking, okay, what can we bring in here to solve and close this gap? And a lot of the times, obviously, robotics is one of those. The second element, apart from actually solving a problem, is how can you actually be better at what you're doing? So it might not be a problem there, but there could be an opportunity to become better, which again is something that robotics and any kind of automation can help with, because it will just augment current processes to make them faster, more efficient, and so on. So what we normally kind of tell our customers is kind of these two elements. First of all, do you have a problem you need solving? And if there is no problem, then also where can you see opportunities for growth and expansion? And then definitely look at tech there.
Thank you so much. That's great. So the question for you, Sharon. I know you guys have a lot of warehouses, especially in Alabama, down my way. I love that.
Yep.
So question is, what processes foundation do you need to have when you can start outfitting a connected and smart warehouse? And I'm also kind of interested in what that means for like a greenfield project versus a brownfield project.
Our our use case is very interesting. So kind of our story is we started off as a small mom and pop distributor for convenience stores, and kind of we've evolved into a technology company. Answering your question there are two completely different things. It really does depend on the industry, but when we look at it from a robotics perspective or in a smart warehouse perspective, it really delves deep into kind of what are your needs and what are your capabilities, and kind of what we were able to explore with kind of our journey was what exactly we needed from a ops perspective. For us, our problem we had to solve was we cannot find people. So what is the quickest way to implement that and the simplest way to implement it in a cost-effective solution? So hopefully that answers that question right there.
Okay, thanks. What about the idea of, so a big thing in 2024 is obviously going to be, cash is a little, investment is still sort of trickling in, but do you see like more brownfield projects existing, or greenfield, obviously a lot more expensive, but sort of the challenges around doing that?
I do see greenfield projects because as we're seeing the technology evolving and people building very specific solutions in the industry, that takes some of the risk out of the equation, and people are willing to put more capital in for a solution that works, and a kind of almost a cookie cutter solution for a lot of these industries.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. So AK, welcome. Hello. Thank you for the drama this morning. We really appreciate that. Good stuff.
Happy to provide.
It's great. So I know that you guys have a multi-agent orchestration multi-agent orchestration platform. I'd love for you to kind of explain that to the folks and why that's so important, and how is that layer relatively new, right, changing the operations within a connected warehouse?
Sure. It's a huge acronym. I don't know, it's like 42 syllables, but it's actually really cool, I promise you. So like one of the biggest problems that every company that I work with is getting access to data and actioning on that data, right? And when we talk about multi-agent, multi-robot, what you're trying to do is hook things together. And generally the approach is to hard code things together. And the word integration actually means to combine two things into a whole, or multiple things in a whole. And the problem is when you connect them and create a whole, you create a monolith. And over time, your business gets locked in by all that source code that can't change, right? And at some point you freeze the business in time, and the thing that you thought was the technologies that you implemented that you thought it was gonna save you now have become a prison for the company. Right. And so what a multi-agent orchestration platform says is nothing should talk directly to anything else. It should talk to a common data feed, and then things can pull data off the feed in action. And the irony of making things orchestrated, multiple technologies, is that they can't actually be aware of each other in order to work. And that's what a multi-agent orchestration platform does. Once the data is in the bus, it can be resubscribed over and over again. And the reality is it's gonna save you in multiple places, software costs, it's gonna save you in cloud fees, computational costs, it's gonna save multiple times. And it's gonna enable you, when you have that idea, you say, there's an obvious solution to this. All I need to do is get the data from here and there, combine them, and it'll work. And if they're hard-coded, it won't happen.
So, and another thing about multi-agent orchestration platforms that I've found really interesting is and give me your opinion on this, AK, the ability to sort of democratize the robots, right? It's like now you can choose the robot that works best for what you're doing in your warehouse, your industry. You need something heavy, you go with this robot. You need something, fast and agile, you go with this robot. So as you said, you're not locked in to, you're just not locked into a development code, So I just wanted your opinion on that as far as working with other vendors now. It's almost co-opetition a little bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, there is no one robot to rule them all, right? So the Germans call it eierlegende Wollmilchsau, which means an egg-laying, wool-bearing, milk-producing pig, I think, right? Whenever you have something that does that, you really get mediocre at everything. And so the future will be multiple types of technologies working in concert. And one of those technologies is human beings. Right now, most systems cannot coordinate like a manual picker with another picker, so you can't handle peaks. And you have to treat human beings almost like robots. They're just not made out of metal. And so, again, the way to do this is to abstract them all, use a common data bus, and then they can operate in the same feed without having super long IT costs and timelines. And you can actually get your idea in motion really rapidly.
Thank you for that. That's great. And thank you for the Lord of the Rings reference. Very much appreciated. Always good. So Herbert, got it. Again, sorry. I'm going to just, I'm intimidated by this doppelganger that I have in front of me here. Yeah. So Herbert, tell me, obviously you have a long history in the space. What are some trends you expect to see across connected warehouse technology, implementation, investments, et cetera, this year?
It's
big question.
Yeah, it's a big question. Easy. Of course, it's consolidating year. It was last year, I think, as well, and it will be this year. So it's not much funding into, but there is still a lot of changes I see in the market. Things that sometimes even new technologies as well. But in the space of what I've been in for 7 years for pick and place robots, it's getting mature now. So it has been pilots and it was always a use case, but was not a business case. And now you see in some areas in the world where people are scarce and hard to get and they cost a lot. So you see there is a business case coming up and you see they are planning to implement them. So does it answer your question?
Okay, thank you, Herbert. I appreciate that. By the way, if you go in the app, you can ask, I'm sure you guys are used to this by now, but you can ask a question. We're going to see it. So please do that, especially if you're in the space and interested, because we'll see it right here. And we'll ask that when we get to that, basically whenever we see it. So go ahead and do that whenever you get a chance. So this is a question we'll go one by one for this one. You've got a warehouse, you want to outfit it for automation. It's greenfield, brownfield, whatever you want to say. What are the steps? What's the foundation that you need to get started? I mean, what's step one? What's step two? What's step three? What's step four? Do you need a WMS already selected? Does the WMS need to have automation capability already coded in? So just take that question, Oana. I'll let you start it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how early you're talking about, because if you don't have at least some sort of a system, then obviously probably your automation is not going to be your main problem. It's kind of getting some sort of a system in. I think where we stand, then probably this kind of applies across everyone. But in order to automate, you have to have a little bit of a repetitive process, right? So you have to be able to have some basic hygiene factors in place to be able to allow that automation to do its job. So for example, what we're doing, obviously, is we're collecting data from inside warehouses. If the aisles are constantly blocked by things and our robots can't go past, then obviously they will never be able to collect that data. Or if the locations on racks are constantly messy and there's no labels or so on, again, that's not going to be able to happen. So what we do a lot of the times to customers, okay, this is the bare kind of minimum of hygiene you need to actually even be able to allow these robots to pass. And it's very similar for picking robots and so on. If they go to a location and the items are not there, that's going to be a failed mission, and everyone's going to be, oh, this automation is crap, it doesn't work. Actually, it's not that. It's you kind of need to have those basics in place. So from where we stand and everything we're seeing, kind of step one is understanding, going back to the question earlier, what is the problem or the opportunity? What is it that you're trying to automate or where you want to bring the technology? And then making sure that it's quite seamless for that technology to work in the constraints that it has to physically, even to start with.
Great. Over to you, Sharon. And you go through this all the time.
Yeah. So where does it start? That's a good question. For us, we had no solutions out there. We're in a highly regulated tobacco industry, so we had to start from the ground up. No ERP worked, no CRM worked for us. So we started with a deep understanding of what exactly we needed to do, what our product was going to be, right? What the problems were, what the solutions were, and then kind of use technology as a catalyst. So we have a unique scenario. So we built our CRM, then built our ERP, then built our WMS, and then kind of integrated with different robotics providers to come to the solution that we wanted. Not the use case for everyone, but this path and this journey for us has taught us that you start with a deep understanding of your business, what your needs are, then the data that comes along with it. Is your data clean? Like, are you collecting right data points? And then being able to utilize that in a proper structural format, and you can deploy different technologies and solutions. So there's no one right answer. For me, it's a mindset answer more than here's the exact way to do it. Start with the deep understanding of business, make sure you're collecting the right data points, and then kind of finding a solution that works with you. And kind of what we've seen is we had to reinvent the whole wheel. So for a lot of people, you don't have to do that. I would really say take the time to get to know people at this show. And maybe they solve the problem that you're trying to solve, and we found scenarios like that where we solved the problem and we found out someone else also did it too. So I think getting that exposure and then formulating a plan and putting it into action kind of gives you a better answer. So it's more of a system and a process than an actual solution.
That's great. And so, AK, it's great that you're right next to Sharon because you come at this from the other area, so as the vendor. So tell me how you would.
So I think counterintuitively, the key to making a successful deployment and de-risking things has nothing to do with robots. It has everything to do with people. And how many people are operators in this room? Supply chain professionals. All right, and how many people are from the IT side? Wow, you're lonely. So the reality, and that actually I think is a great point. Like, there's not that many really educated IT professionals that understand automation. I'm sure you are the exception, sir, but right now, IT has always been a technology group and not an operational group. And I'll tell you, the best companies that I've worked with, their IT groups are right in ops. They are integrated with ops. They have an ops minded. But the other side is the operators are technology minded as well. And if you're going to do the first one, my suggestion is you have top level C-suite engagement. You have someone with real street cred from IT and ops, that they're on a common mission, and you give them legitimate people. Because most companies do not have the internal knowledge to do this. So if you're going to be in a rush to do anything, be in a rush to build that team, because you can't really Google automation and be good at it in a few months. You have to build that foundation and give it real horsepower and funding.
Great answer. Thank you, AK. Herbert.
Yeah, in addition to what has been said, what I've seen often is that people, next to having a holistic, profound view of what the situation is, they want to focus on speed, they want to focus on cost, they want to focus on satisfying clients, they want to focus on reducing personnel costs, etc. And then since Corona, there's also the flexibility to be able to cope with the changes in the environment of the supply chain. But actually, you cannot focus on all. It's choosing where not to focus on. And that's a hard choice to say, okay, we're not going to focus on cost, we're not going to focus on whatever. So it requires tough decisions because it's not easy. We've seen a lot of failures in the industry in the last few years. So either it didn't work or it was at least a long delay. So it's being honest to yourself. What are your capabilities? What is your supplier? What the capabilities do they have? And maybe see some other examples. It's tough.
Thank you, Herbert. That's great. Love that we have some questions coming in. Keep them coming. We'll go ahead and jump to one right here. Just Oana's right here. We can go. Is Dexory already in use? If so, is it being used in the U.S.? And are you connected to anybody else on stage? So that's a multi-tiered question, but I think you've got it right in front of you.
Definitely got it, yeah. So Dexory is already in use across a number of sites in Europe and soon in the Middle East, and also in the US is Q4. So we're expanding quite a lot over the next couple of weeks, actually. We have kind of used Manifest as the official, ta-da, we're here kind of event. but we have been operating in the region for a bit now. But I love the second part of the questions around where are we, whether or not connected, then we should definitely get connected and kind of have a conversation about that. But the way we normally work, so for those of you obviously not very familiar with what we do, but we do use autonomous robots 40 feet tall to kind of capture data from inside racks in a warehouse. And we digitize all that data into our digital twin platform where people can very easily kind of see where goods are, how the environment looks like, track those across time and so on. So for that, obviously, there's an element of we capture that data and then also we digitize it. But when we digitize it, yes, we do need to compare it with other systems. And we can do that in kind of 3 very simple steps. One would be we just need some very, very simple files sent to our servers from the WMS, which could be easily automated at different times of the day or multiple times a day. But what we'd prefer is kind of work a little bit deeper and have an API integration into the WMS. So whenever our robots scan an area, they can compare that data with exactly what's in the WMS, which is where all the points that you mentioned earlier around IT and that understanding are absolutely essential. And I think, we've had very similar issues where, especially when you work with the bigger companies, I mean, we're still a startup scale-up, so quite small in size versus most of our biggest customers, and you are trapped in this loop of a million questions on IT and procurement, and you just don't really understand what we do that has nothing to do with us, but everyone's kind of used to following that process, and a lot of the times it's missed opportunities because the right people just don't get it at the end of the day. So going back to the question, we'd love to have a conversation as well, and see how we could work together.
We'll talk after.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Oh gosh, so AK, this is a good question for you. What is that acronym? And explain it, if you could, the layer between these technologies.
All right, so it's multi-agent orchestration platform, and I've never actually pronounced it as an acronym. So, but I guess it would be MAU Kapur. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't actually matter. So, what a multi-agent orchestration platform says is it's a layer in between all different technologies that act in a way that they are independent agents. And if you think about a technology like Waze, right? Like Waze will give you turn-by-turn directions, but the real power of Waze is it's providing feedback into a data set so that it can make better suggestions for you. However, you're still the driver. You still make the choice, right? It's not controlling your car. It's giving you advice. And I see that multi-agent orchestration platforms creates this ability for company technologies to cooperate, share data, without being technically coupled or commercially coupled. Because when they're commercially coupled, lawyers get involved, purchasing gets involved, slows the whole mess down. So multi-agent orchestration is also going to be, and if I didn't use the word AI, I won't be able to put the dollar in the it's the buzzword jar.
Part of the contract we all signed.
Part of the contract, exactly. But the key to AI will be exposing data, and most of that data is sitting in black boxes in individual systems. And you paid for the data. Let's make the data transparent.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's great. So I have a question for you, Sharon. Going back to when you are starting these projects, what's the thing that people most forget? What gets overlooked? For instance, what kind of pallet do you need for this type of, for automation? It can't be the exact same as what we see, when people are unloading tomorrow, right? So that's just one example, but what is the sort of minutia that people might overlook?
So structure and processes. I think, whenever people assume when you implement robots or automation, it's just another tool to help you stick to your structure and your process. People tend to forget the more elemental things of doing things the right way, making sure, for example, we teach a lot of our team members the right way to press the buttons. It sounds so simple, right? How to pay attention to where you're putting the product, right? So it starts, I think, elemental. It's educating your people. I think obviously with robots, there's still people involved, and you gotta account for that. We tend to have automation as this catch-all, it's a solution that fixes everything. But that focus on the people, I think, really is a force multiplier, and that tends to be overlooked quite a bit.
Thanks. That's great. Yeah. Just want to make sure if people are on this journey that they capture all of the potential pitfalls. Herbert, so I had a question. So, going back to there was the stat about that people generally have started to invest in cyber automation, cyber physical automation, robotics. It kind of, it was always on the horizon, right? It was always coming. And then obviously the pandemic came. People didn't want to do these jobs as much anymore. Labor became such a problem. So that's one major driver here, as well as efficiency, which is also a big driver from the pandemic that we all see. But I know there's always been pushback about like taking jobs from people with this work, right? But can you talk a little bit about the fact that it's actually, I'm not going to lead the question to you, but that's not necessarily the case. It's more about how they work together. Correct?
You mean people and robots?
People and robots, people in automation, they have to be trained, etc.
Yeah, now I've seen situation with my previous company, Vizier. We did depalletizing, for instance, at 3PLs and also at DHL, and there were people picking up boxes and bags, and they were really heavy. And so it's in kilos. It could be 30 kilos or 70 pounds. And the people were so relieved when the robot came. And they were all, and at the beginning it didn't work well because all kinds of reasons happens. But they said, oh, it will be okay. They were really supportive. They wanted it to succeed because even if you pick a package of 15 kilo from a pallet, the whole day, it's demanding. So they didn't want to do the work anymore, that type of work. Also with big bags, picking it from a pallet with bags of powders and stuff, it's tough. So actually it's illegal during European law because you can only pick if it's really close to you. So you can do it like that. But if it's away from you or you make a turn, it's already seen as you should not do it. So we found out that those people are really relieved when that kind of work has been done, like trailer unloading, like a loose load trailer unloading. It's tough because it's either in the winter or in the summer. It's hot or it's very cold, and there's just one person in a trailer emptying it. You don't want to do that job, and it's hard to get those people as well. Yeah.
Right. Put some color on that. So there's a lot of people are afraid of robotics and how it's going to displace human workers. Here's a reality. I've been in this business for 20 years. Unemployment has gone down since robotics has been growing. And if you think about the first assembly line in Henry Ford, in a way, he was kind of like the first roboticist by automating a process. Less people were required to make cars, but they made way more cars for a much lower price point. And how many jobs were created just in the Detroit area? We probably wouldn't even have like Motown if we didn't have like the assembly line, because that whole city grew up around that whole concept of the assembly line. So what I would say is, we can include people in the robotics revolution. It does not have to displace them. In fact, I think it will create more work.
That's a great point on the Detroit. I love that. Thank you for that. I'm gonna steal that from you, AK. I really like it. That's good. I mean, we're on a roll with this question, and we're running out of time anyway. So let's have you jump in, Sharon, as well on that.
Yeah, that was the quintessential reason for us to start our automation journey. Huntsville, where we're from, has incredibly low unemployment rate, and think about what happened when COVID hit. Finding people was next to impossible, but thankfully we saw that coming a couple of years before COVID, and we made a decision, said, how do we make it our work environment the best as possible? So our answer was make it more ergonomic. We don't want people to walk 10 miles a day. And so robotics was an answer to supplement and make the working environment better. And ever since we've done that, people have not only taken a lot of pride in working at our company, it's boosted morale, but people we're having better time retaining people because it's a better working condition. So they know that we care about them. And using, I guess, robots doesn't necessarily mean replacing people. It's just making it more ergonomic, making it a better working environment for them.
Bring us home, Oana.
Sure, love to. I think kind of just jumping on all the points around, what we do a lot is make sure that we bring people on that journey whenever we bring one of our units to the site, and they really understand, first of all, how does it help them? So there's no longer the need to kind of go up on a scissor lift, like 12 feet in the air, like 40 feet in the air to count something or look at something. So there's a safety element, there's just a tedious, boring process that you have to do with cycle counting that were taken away, so they very quickly kind of see that value. But we do invest quite a lot of time to take everyone on the floor around, like, look, this is the robot, this is what it does, just this is what you should expect, this is how it's going to help you. And I still think that's very important, like to your point, because it does help with their morale, with their support as well, because if something does go wrong, then they'll kind of like a little bit more understanding, and they actually support the robot. Like sometimes it might be debris on the floor or things that block it, and we see people jumping in, taking it out of the way, and then kind of with a smile on their face as well. So I think it's kind of that you have to do it together. And to that point, I mean, yeah, there's not an element of taking work away. It's just making life easier and just allowing them to focus on the things that are not as boring and dangerous.
That is a great way to close it out, guys. Thank you for coming today. Thanks for braving the beautiful day here. Finally, we got one. Thanks for coming to Manifest. Really appreciate it as this event grows. So y'all have a great rest of your show.